So now let us discuss the concept of legislative power. So we have this concept of legislative. So when we speak of legislative powers, these are powers that are vested with Congress, of course. So the Senate has its power, of course, as an office itself. The Congress will always have this, would always have this power. Okay, so as an institution, and as well as what is being addressed to them as a aside from being an institution, their powers in the exercise of their functions by itself. We can lump this all into this point of we can consider them all as legislative powers. But of course, let us tackle one by one. Let us tackle one by one this concept of the powers of Congress. Okay, so of course this would be lumped up as legislative powers. Okay, so let's start with the institutional powers of Congress. Okay, so when we speak of institutional powers, of course, remember that Congress is a branch of government. Okay, so as a branch of government, you can consider the Senate and the House of Representatives as a government institution or a government office. Okay, so being, of course, in a more specific term, they are a branch of government because, of course, our discussion on separation of powers. But as a branch of government, it has this function. Of course, it has this institutional structure that you have to implement or act in accordance to what is their role as branch. Of course, if you do not have these institutional powers, Congress cannot function at all because that's going to be their functions, be it ceremonial or be it in an actual form. Okay, so so now let's discuss about institutional power. So when we speak of institutional powers, it is the power of Congress to, of course, convene as Congress, diba? Because if they're not going to convene as Congress, it's going to be it's they're not going to be doing their jobs. Okay, so and if you can recall, diba? So i-relate natin to sa what happens. So of course, Congress will have to open 4 sessions, diba? So if you can recall, 'di ba, pag tuwing last week of July, 'di ba? The fourth Monday of July. What is the significant thing that happens there? Okay? So of course, aside from the SONA, okay, SONA is within the informing power of the president, but the president cannot exercise or cannot act on his informing power if Congress will not formally open. So the importance of the fourth week of July is Congress will open a new session. Okay, so it's a new session on the part of Congress. So there will be a new session. They're going to open Congress until it adjourns. Okay, so usually the adjournment will be around about a month before the reopening again of Congress, except during election year. Sometimes during election year there is this during election year this there would be an advance adjournment of Congress because of the election itself. Okay, so that's a possibility. Okay, so that's the role. Of course, Congress has to open up session every 4th of July. Then we're going to continue until its adjournment. Now, of course, let's discuss some of the other institutional related powers. Okay, so of course, when we speak of Congress in session, can congressmen or senators set just call a session of Congress? Of course, there is this requirement of quorum. Okay, so under the Constitution, there is a requirement that Congress shall have session with the appropriate quorum. Okay, so yung quorum natin. So what is quorum for all intents and purposes? Okay, so sabi sa Section 16 of your Article 6, di ba? So a majority of each house shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as such house may provide. Okay, so ano ibig sabihin na? So, well, of course, in discussion sa quorum would always, if you want to be entertained into reading all jurisprudence, syempre, ang pinaka-sikat na kaso dyan would be the case of Avellino versus Cuenco. Diba? So, ano ba nangyari sa Avellino versus Cuenco? So, nangyari dyan, yung almost kalahati ng mga senador because dati noon nationalista lang naman at saka liberal party ang ang party sa Kongreso. Hindi tulad ngayon, ang dami ng partido ngayon, di ba? Ganun ngayon eh, ang dami ng partido ngayon. Noon kasi LP lang at saka NP ang partido. So nag-walk out yung mga LP na kakampi ni Abilino sa Kongreso. So nag-walk out sila, nagtuloy pa rin ng session yung natira. Yung ang naging nila Senate President si Mariano Jesus Cuenco. Okay, so syempre nagkaroon sila ng issue sa Supreme Court. So nung una the Supreme Court did not want to interfere. Actually, sabi nga nila nung una political question yan eh. Pero well, because of the standoff, kasi nagkaroon ng standoff eh. Hindi pumapasok yung iba, pero yung mga hindi nag-walk out, nag-attend pa ng session. Okay? So, sabi ng Supreme Court, ang quorum for all legal intents and purposes, it would be majority of the members plus one. Okay? So, yun yung mathematical formula. So, for example, you have 24 senators, it's going to be 13. Okay? It's going to be 13. Okay? So, 13 can constitute a quorum. So, example, 13 yung senators na umattend sa session, valid yung session na yon kasi majority plus one naman yung constitution nung House or ng Senate while in session. Okay? So yun yung point nung quorum natin. Okay? Now, of course, syempre, Section 16, Paragraph 1, mag-e-elect syempre ng Speaker ang House of Representatives, then magkakaroon ng Senate President, okay? When it comes to the Senate. Now, let's go muna sa House of Representatives. So, di ba, sa House of Representatives ngayon, ang trend ngayon is, aside from the Speaker, maraming deputy speakers, okay? So, of course, that's allowed, okay? I'll go to that why it's allowed. Siyempre, sa Senate naman, of course, Senate is composed of 24 senators, but they have their own set of officers. So, napapansin ninyo, diba? Of course, similar sa Congress, sa House of Representatives, you would see a minority leader and a majority leader. So, yung majority leader, that's the one who speaks for the majority being represented in Congress. Now, again, nung unang panahon, medyo madali lang malaman yung majority at minority kasi halos dalawa lang ang party nga noon, di ba? Nationalista lang naman noon at saka liberal. But nowadays, marami na ngayong parties because the 1987 Constitution espouses a multi-party system. So, what happened was, well, literally, nagkaroon talaga ng multi-party system. Okay? Pero syempre, within the confines of the chambers of Congress, be it sa House or sa Senate, syempre, yung mga senators natin for political purposes, syempre, di ba, they engage into coalitions, di ba, or coalitions or groups, di ba, so among themselves. So syempre, because of those groupings or those affiliations that they make internally, doon minsan nagkakaroon ng sino magiging majority floor leader, sino din yung magiging majority floor leader, tapos syempre sino din yung i-elect nilang either speaker or president or Senate president, di ba? So, but of course sa Senate, merong other officers na dyan. So, for example, aside sa majority and minority leader, we have this Senate pro tempore, di ba? So yun yung parang vice, just to make it simple, para siyang vice president. Siya yung parang next in line just in case, di ba? Ng Senate President, okay? But of course, the Senate President is is ahead. Now, of course, we have to distinguish this with the American system. And of course, in relation sa local government unit. Kasi ang senators na ang setup sa Senate natin is the Senate President would come from the 24 senators. Unlike yan sa US kasi, ang Vice President yung quote-unquote Senate President la. The Vice President is the presiding officer of Congress, of the Senate there in the United States. Kasi sa United States, 100 ng senador. Magkaroon ng deadlock, boboto yung Vice President for the deadlock. Okay? So that's so that's a possibility. Siyempre relate ko rin sa local government code kasi 'di ba sa local government code in case of vacancies nagka-cascade up 'yan. Okay? So kung tutuusin merong a little bit of succession plan sa LGC natin sa local government code from mayor up to the elected councilors or the elected board of members kung pinag-uusapan natin gobernador o vice-gobernador. Okay? So that's the so medyo dynamic siya dito sa Senate natin. Nandun mismo internally yung choice. Okay? Now, of course, ngayon balik tayo. So of course, may mga officers in the Senate. Then syempre, tataka kayo, aside sa majority and minority floor leader, may mga deputy speakers tayong tinatawag. Ang tanong, allowed ba yan under the Constitution? Well, technically it's allowed because if you're going to read your Section 16, Paragraph 3, okay, of Article 6, di ba? So each house may determine the rules of its proceedings. Okay, so part yan dun sa rules of proceedings na. So kung mapapansin nyo, syempre di nyo mapapansin to sa balita, but usually the houses of Congress usually they have this rules of procedure also. Yung parang yung rules nila, yung parang how they are going to conduct their orderly sessions. Okay? So may rules yan, may mga rules yan, meron yan parang kailangan sundan, may andun lahat ng mga formalities dun sa procedures. Now, sometimes the Senate or the House of Representatives usually changes the rules from time to time, 'di ba? So part ng discretion nila 'yan as a independent branch of government. So they have this inherent power to determine the rules of their proceedings, 'di ba? Okay. Then syempre aside dun sa rules, syempre included diyan yung pagpunish ng members of Congress sa kanilang mga members, 'di ba, for possibly disorderly behavior, 'di ba? So, kung naalala niyo nitong I think two weeks ago, 'di ba, if you can recall, may isang congressman na alam ko tumatakbo siyang senador ngayong 2025, okay? 'Di ba? Nung parang patapos na 'yung sesyon, biglang inagaw 'yung microphone, 'di ba? Inagaw 'yung microphone. So, nung ginawa ng ibang mga members ng Congress, so pinailan siya ng kaso sa ethics complaint, okay? Because that's considered as disorderly behavior that some members of Congress, 'di ba, kahit sa House of Representatives yan or sa Senate nangyari, they're going to submit it with the ethics committee, 'di ba? Or nung naalala nyo, I think a few months ago, 'di ba, may dalawang senador na hindi yung muntika nang nagkaroon ng blows, 'di ba? If you can recall, more than few months ago, there was this certain senator na kinol ng name yung isang senator dahil nagkaroon sila ng issues dun sa legislative building, if you can recall, 'di ba? So meron silang konting away, yung isang senator naging bata, biglang nag-spew na lang siya ng mga invectives at saka mga unsavory words against sa kapwa niya senador na babae, 'di ba? So, yun yung mga bagay that is subject to disciplinary proceedings. Now, syempre yung mga kwento ko, malamang baka ma-compromise lang nila yan or baka mag-sorry sila. But let us say na nagkaroon sila ng subsequent action. So, eventually, si congressman who acted in an unruly and in an disorderly manner, di ba? Paano kung natuluyan siyang masuspend? Okay? Paano kung matuluyan siya masuspend? Of course, we have Alejandrino versus Quezon and the later case of Osmeña versus Pendatun, 'di ba? So, essentially ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court, well, it is within the wisdom and the confines of the institution of Congress to discipline their members. Okay? So, hindi magi-interfere yung courts as to why are they going to discipline the that member of Congress. Okay? So, essentially, ang sinasabi lang ng Supreme Court dun sa cases na yon, political question siya. Okay? It's a political question. Now, the question that we can ask is, syempre, di ba, we have already discussed dun sa judicial review. Paano kung magkaroon ng grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or in excess of jurisdiction, di ba? Di ba yung discussion na sa judicial review? Of course, syempre, remember that if you're going to, if the question, of course, the answer is it's possible, although it has not yet been tested. Someone wanted to test it. I don't know what happened now as I'm speaking right now. But if I can recall, one of your congressman was already been removed, di ba? And is already in somewhere in East Timor, di ba? So, you know, before he went to East Timor, his lawyer filed a petition questioning the propriety or the appropriateness of him getting expelled sa Congress. Kasi, di ba, naalala ko, hindi na siya absent, hindi siya nagpakita after there was a case, there was a related case, di ba? So, anong nangyari, pumunta na siya ng East Timor. But before he went to East Timor, if I can recall, nag-file siya ng case before the Supreme Court questioning the legality of his ouster as a member of Congress. Okay, well, naalala ko, if I can recall, syempre medyo may issue pa yan. Hindi ko alam kung magro-rule ng SC, but I think the COMELEC already ordered special elections to cover the vacancy na parang naurong yata, if I can recall it correctly. Naurong yung election because but if I can recall, it's as I'm speaking right now, I think it's not yet resolved. Okay, I have not seen an update from the Supreme Court that it has already been resolved. But it's possible. It can be demonstrated that it's possible to possibly file a petition questioning if there might be grave abuse of discretion on removing that certain member of Congress. Diba? So you can of course the next question now would be, of course, will it prosper? So we have to wait if the Supreme Court would rule on it squarely, because of course the Supreme Court may just possibly say that, well, it's moot and academic, or it's already overtaken by circumstances. We don't know. Kasi remember that, especially if there would be an election as to members of Congress, or member of Congress, it's possible that, well, it might be moot and academic, okay? But of course, it's up to the Supreme Court to decide as we speak right now if they're going to rule on this, okay? All right. Then, of course, we have this concept of course, journal of the proceedings. So, meron yan legislative journal. So, meron yan day to day. So, if you go to alam ko sa website ng Congress, di ba? Or sa Senate, kung example, gusto nyo malaman yung history ng bill, meron yang mga nakanote kung kailan yung dates. Kasi syempre, as an institution, Congress is a institution that relies on records of the proceedings, di ba? So may recording sila ng proceedings. May mga books yan. If you go to the Senate, meron yang libro. Andun lahat ng journal ng proceedings from 1987. If you want to go even as way back in 1935, meron din sila sa archive nila, okay? So, syempre, ano ba yung point ng ating journal? So, similar yan dun sa, di ba, we're discussing sa Francisco, meron tayong journal ng Constitutional Commission. Syempre, yung journal natin, syempre, andun lahat yung mga ng batas, di ba? So, andun lahat ng history. So, just like your constitutional construction, if you have this subject called statutory construction, they go both, they operate on similar, they both operate on similar premises, 'di ba? So kung may ambiguity or you wanted to look at the intent of the members of Congress, yung mga framers nung batas na 'yon, 'di ba? The framers of the law, what is their legislative intent? You can look at the minutes of the proceedings in the enactment of such Republic Act or law, okay? Madali namang ano 'yon, madali namang mahanap naman kasi 'yon kasi right now sa website, I think if you check the website, you can see the legislative history. So naka-note naman yung mga dates. So if you want to read further sa Congress, you can go to Congress and research, okay? So that's a possibility that you can go to Congress and get, if you want to get informed, 'di ba? Or example, meron kayong case research na ano ba legislative intent na, let's say, ng dangerous drugs law, 'di ba? Ano ba talaga yan? Mala prohibita or meron ba talaga yan? Makikita niyo yan sa Congress. Be it syempre sa Senate at saka sa House. Syempre iba-iba yung, syempre may bills yan. We are a bicameral Congress, so iba yung, so merong minutes sa Senate bill, meron ding minutes sa you call this, may minutes sa Senate, meron ding minutes sa House of Representatives. Okay, so if you wanted to look at it, you can go and check it out. Okay, if syempre hindi ko naman sinabing i-check nyo out right now. Those sa mga nag-ano, of course, if you have this important research, you may check it out, okay? So all right, so that's, so of course syempre ang tanong diyan is ano magpe-prevail, yung journal ba ng proceedings or yung actual na nangyari dun sa loob. So I think it's already been decided, particularly I think the case of US versus Pons. So diba sa US versus Pons, if you can recall that old case, so kine-question nung petitioner yung parang law, okay? Kasi parang na-convict siya. Tapos ina-assail niya ngayon, he was assailing the law itself, okay? Sinasabi niya nung pinasa daw yung batas na yon, ginalaw daw ng Senado, ng Congress yung orasan, okay? So nagano sila, well, sabi nga, di ba, nag-time space warp yung ano daw, yung oras, di ba? So anyways, pero of course that's a mere allegation, okay? So parang sinasabi lang naman dun sa case sa US versus Pons. Of course, your journals have presumption of regularity, di ba? So kung ano yung nakalagay dun sa minutes, di ba, kung ano yung nangyari, it's given regularity. Kasi syempre, kaya yung nga purpose ng journal para to record everything that is being done in that session, di ba? And of course, meron kang actual document, di ba? You have your records. If you're going to go through the notion on a more technical discussion like the rules of evidence, may judicial notice yan. You don't need to prove your journal. That exists as a function of the legislative department, which is considered as mandatory judicial notice. So check nyo na lang yan sa evidence. Alam ko, maybe some of you sa Consti has not yet reached that discussion on evidence. But remember that a journal, you don't need to prove the journal as evidence because it's already there as an official document. Okay? So in case of doubt, magpe-prevail ang journal. Okay? So all right. So that's your so that's some of your institutional power. So this refers to powers in which Congress would act. Okay? All right. So now let's discuss the actual role and the primary role of Congress. So let's discuss about the lawmaking power of Congress. Okay? So when we speak of lawmaking power, of course, this is their main function to pass laws, diba? If we recall our discussion on what is the traditional role of the three branches of government. Of course, the legislative passes laws, okay? The executive executes or implements the laws. And if there would be any problem with one branch of government or another as to the law itself or as to the implementation of the law, the Supreme Court will always be there to have this ultimate check, okay, over such powers, whether or not it's going to be grave abuse of discretion or unconstitutional in character. Okay? Now, of course, the next question now is, how does a bill become a law? Okay? Syempre we have to go first with the flow, 'di ba? So, syempre, of course, how laws are passed. Okay? So, of course, we're going to discuss paano siya how laws are being passed. So, syempre, paano ka magkakaroon ng law? Okay? So, we have to consider yung steps. Okay? So, syempre, paano ka magkakaroon ng batas, 'di ba? So, of course, ganito 'yan. Syempre, we have this proposal muna, 'di ba? So, paano yung proposal? Sino ba nagpo-propose ng batas? So, for example, yung mga senador nyo or congressman, 'di ba? Bigla na lang nakapag-isip ng batas out of thin air, 'di ba? Pero out of thin air ba nila naiisip yung batas na yun? Hindi. Kaya usually, that's the function of your Congress. Napansin nyo sa Senado, of course, we elected them. But I would more or less emphasize sa Congress. Napansin nyo, di ba, district yung representative, yung manner of representing. Then, syempre, sa party list, you are intending to represent marginalized or sectoral representation. Kaya, ganun yun, kasi, syempre, si sectoral or si marginalized representation, may mga daing, di ba? May mga bagay na gusto nilang maihahin sa Kongreso para maging batas, di ba? So, for example, farmers, di ba? Gusto nilang mag-improve ang kanilang status or be given importance through laws. Okay? So, syempre, what the farmers will do is, of course, they're going to go to their congressman, di ba? Or kung member ka ng Maralita, di ba? Saan ka pupunta? Kung meron kayong party list na sumusuporta sa mga Maralita, pwede kayong lumapit doon. So it can be informal discussion, it can be a letter. Okay, that's the way how to do it. So pwede mong i-request na pwede ba kayong gumawa ng batas para sa ganitong bagay, di ba? So now, based from those suggestions of their constituents, okay? So syempre, it's constituent based, di ba? So kahit sa Senado naman, di ba, kung may magpo-propose, di ba, kailangan may sasangguni sa kanilang taong bayan, di ba, na pwede natin gawing batas yan, di ba? Pwede din naman, di ba, nakikita nyo rin din sa ating mga Senate hearings. That's also a way to determine if there's a need to pass a bill, di ba? It's through those investigations. That's a possibility. Kasi later on, we'll discuss yung in aid of legislation, okay? Pero syempre, that's an inquiry which you would also get a possible proposal on a certain law, di ba? So, minsan we would see our members of Congress blubbering around in the Senate, di ba? So since they're blubbering around and all of that, di ba? Iniisip ng ibang tao, may sense ba yung ginagawa nilang nagse-session sila? In the legal sense, may sense yan. Kasi, although sometimes, of course, let's truth be told, there would be instances where, of course, members of Congress will use this for political reasons, di ba? But you try to remove the political reason from it. You try to think of it as they are trying to conduct these investigations in order to come out with possible either it's a new law or it's either an improvement or amendment to current laws. So in order to improve the laws that they're going to pass, di ba? So that's so yun yung purpose naman talaga niyan. Now, syempre may limitations yung proposal na yan. So syempre pag natanggap mo yung proposal, of course, the member of Congress, be it a senator or a congressman, will now draft a bill in relation to that proposal, di ba? So magkakaroon ka ngayon ng proposal, di ba? So maraming ways nga to get a proposal. But in the end, yung proposal mo, in order to have that first step in becoming a law, your congressman or your senator would draft and later on submit a bill. Okay? So, kung galing ka sa Kongreso, House Bill, sa House of Representatives, House Bill, Pag galing ka naman sa, if you're from the Senate, it's going to be a Senate bill. Now, syempre may limitations yan under Section 24 Article 6. Because ito yung tinatawag natin na origination clause ng ating legislative department provisions ng constitution. So ano itong origination clause? So may mga certain bills na kailangan galing sa Kongreso mismo. Because of course, the reason is syempre it's more closer, these are suggestions or these are proposals that may be needed to be closer to be proposed by Filipinos, by the constituents. So syempre sino ba mas close? Hindi naman senador, di ba? Ang close theoretically is the members of the House or the party list representatives. Sila yung una mong pwede kasing takbuhan kung if you really want to pursue legislation on a certain matter. Syempre unang malalapitan is Congress. So this particular matters in Section 24. So sabi sa Section 24, of course, all appropriation. So appropriation, yun yung gaan natin, okay? So revenue or tariff bills, so lahat ng related sa taxes, okay? Bills authorizing the increase of the public debt, okay? Bills of local application, and private bills. So ano yung private bills? So citizenship bills. So that's an example of a private bill, okay? So example, ano ka ng PhilAm, 'di ba? Ginawa mong naturalized Filipino, 'di ba, si Justin Brownlee, 'di ba? So yun, that's a form of a private bill. So magpo-propose ka na may maging PhilAm, 'di ba? Tapos syempre bills of local application, then public debt, 'di ba? So gusto mag-increase ng public debt, kailangan manggaling yan sa Kongreso mismo. Because the presumption is the one who's going to suggest that would be the specific constituents, okay? Yun yung ano dyan. So, but of course, although this may originate exclusively in the House of Representatives, the Senate may propose or concur with amendments, diba? So, sinasabi lang yan, pwede lang mauna dyan, okay, sa Kongreso. But of course, the Senate, of course, kailangan lang mag-concur because later on, diba, we're going to discuss yung bicameral feature ng ating Congress. So ano ba purpose ng bicameral Congress natin? Para sala ang batas. Okay? Kasi this is unlike noon, if we can recall, di ba, sa batas sa pambansa, unicameral ang tawag doon. So isang pass lang yun, sabay pirma na ng presidente. Okay? In our current structure of Congress, we are bicameral in nature. So after one house will pass a bill, the Senate, example, nauna yung House of Representatives, nag-pass, let's say, ng tariff measure. Of course, the Senate will come out with an equivalent bill, okay? Na equivalent bill na pag na-approve na yung both bills na yon, the Congress will going to enroll that bill as authorized and done in the regular course of business before signing it with the President. Okay? So, paano ngayon magiging law ang isang bill? So, kanina we're discussing about proposals. Okay? So, let's say our member of Congress has already drafted the bill. So, ang gagawin nila, sasubmit na nila yung bill nila officially sa Office ng Secretary General. So, ang gagawin na sa Office of the Secretary General, so yun yung usually tumatanggap ng mga receiving copies. So, usually doon pa receive ng congressman yung bills. Okay? Siyempre, si Secretary General, hindi lang naman yan ang nire-receive. Later on, you'll learn na sila din nagre-receive ng impeachment complaints. Diba? So, lahat ng mga needs action, diba, na kailangan ipa-receive sa Senate o sa House of Representatives, meron silang assigned na Secretary General, yung each house. Okay? So, yung office niya would receive all these things. So, of course, primarily, they receive copies of the bills being passed by congressmen, okay? Or senators, okay? So let's say, binigay mo na kay Secretary General. So, syempre, pag binigay na kay Secretary General, ipapakalendar niya na yung bill into session. So, dito papasok ngayon yung requirement natin sa Section 26, okay? Section 26, paragraph 2, okay? So, ito yung section 6 paragraph 2 natin ng article 6 ng Constitution. This encapsulates yung constitutional requirement how bills may be passed. Okay? So, ano mangyayari ngayon dyan? So, kung mabasahin yung Constitution, so, no bill passed by either house shall become a law unless it has passed 3 readings on separate days. Okay? So, kailangan ng 3 readings ang batas. Okay? But of course, ano yung 3 readings na yan? Okay? So, sa Constitution, hindi specific yan. But of course, it's up to either house, di ba? It's up to either the House or Senate to promulgate rules. Okay? So, ang usually na nangyayari sa 3 readings is ganito. So, example, si Secretary General has already submitted the bill. Okay? He has already submitted the bill. So, the Secretary General will now calendar that bill to be heard sa session ng Congress. Okay? So, pag pinasok yan sa session ng Congress, dadaan yan sa first reading. So, ano yung first reading? So, the first reading would be the reading of the proposed bill sa plenaryo, dun sa when Congress is in session. So, babasahin nila yan. So, may portion yan. Kung nanonood, kung wala kasi C-SPAN dito eh. Although, right now, ang maganda lang ngayon, either Congress or Senate, minsan, ni-YouTube na nila yung mga committee hearings. Okay? Pero wala pa, hindi ko alam kung, minsan, pag commission, nang huli pa ng commission appointments nag-play. I don't know if the Senate channel, online channels or the House of Representatives online channels has a live stream of what's happening in Congress. Okay? So, pero, kung manonood ka sa Congress or sa Senate Hall, okay, so ang mangyayari dyan sa first reading, babasahin muna yung pangalan ng batas. So, pag nabasa na yung pangalan ng batas, that's the formality in which the bill has already done first reading. So, ano mangyayari pag na-first reading na yung batas? So, pag nag-first reading na siya, dadali na siya sa mga appropriate committees. Okay? So, titingnan sa committee nila na kung okay ba tong batas na yan. So, magkakaroon sila ng study. So, for example, di ba, if you can recall, di ba, si ABS-CBN franchise nung kainitan ng pandemic, di ba? So, di ba, franchise you need the law to have a franchise, okay? So, syempre nag-pass ng House bill doon sa prangkisa ng ABS-CBN. Pero di ba, syempre ang sumunod na step doon sa first reading, dinala nila sa Committee on Communications yata yung pangalan ng committee nila. Pero dinala doon sa appropriate committee, di ba? So, syempre, pag nandun ka na sa committee, it will now depend on the committee whether or not they're going to approve para magkaroon na ng second reading, or they can kill the proposed bill there in that committee level. Okay, so di ba nang inaalala niyo sa Channel 2, kinatay na nila yung ABS-CBN sa committee level. Okay, kaya hindi natuloy yung prangkisa nila, di ba, nung nag-expire tapos nag-apply, inesel na ka rin yun ng prangkisa because Congress killed the franchise already after ng first reading. They already killed it sa committee hearing. Kaya minsan, pag example, may mga sensitive issues like, for example, divorce. I don't know, kita nyo, yung divorce right now, there's no movement, di ba? I don't know if it's already been submitted to a committee. I would assume it is, but di ba, kung example, naka-silent lang siya or naka-park lang siya, di ba? Hindi ka gagalaw kung pwede ang committee level, pwede hindi gumalaw yung proposed bill, di ba? By mere not acting on it, pwede yan eh. But of course, syempre, yung ultimate death knell there, the possible death knell there is the committee may kill actually that proposed bill. So pwede nilang gawin yun sa committee level pa lang, okay? Now, syempre, let's assume that that Congress has approved the proposed bill, nakaalusot sa committee level. So pupunta ka na sa second reading, okay? Pupunta ka na sa second reading, okay? So, syempre, pag nandun ka na sa second reading, ito na yung introduce, the law will be now introduced in the plenary, di ba? So, kung manonood ulit kayo ng mga hearing sa Senate, di ba, or sa House of Representatives, Siyempre, ito na yung part na magkakaroon na sponsorship message, yung usually nagsa-sponsorship message yung nagpasa ng bill. So sasabihin niya na kaya namin to pinapasa because of these reasons we needed this bill. Then syempre pag na-introduce na yung na-sponsor na for second reading. So yung second reading, so pag nabasa na yan, is a sponsorship message. So within that realm after the second reading, okay? So syempre andito na yung period na pwedeng pagdebatihan yung batas. So syempre kung mapapansin niyo, 'di ba, aside sa parang similar nga lang to sa Constitutional Commission, but syempre makikita niyo to sometimes sa ibang mga Supreme Court decisions, 'di ba? Minsan magka-call sila ng minutes ng Senate or House of Representatives to determine legislative intent. Okay? So ano ba magandang example na batas yan. So if you check, 'di ba? Check niyo si Pereira versus Comelec. Okay, yung I think yung resolution sa MR, okay? Check niyo yung Pereira versus Comelec. Meron yung discussion that they cited the minutes of the Senate, 'di ba? So nandun makikita mo may minutes ng Senate, 'di ba? Parang pag nagbabasa kayo ng constitutional cases na may minutes ng constitution meron din ganyan sa either Senate or House. Yung intention niya, di ba? Ano ba ang intention niya? So i-quote nila lahat ng discussions ng mga congressmen or senators dun sa minutes nung minutes nung journal on that particular second reading. So nakalagay niya, nakalist yan. So pwede na sila mag-interpolate. So pwedeng example, yung batas questionin ng isa, bakit may ganyang provision? Alisin natin, okay? Or dagdagan natin, di ba? Bakit pwede namang dagdagan natin 'yan? Singit na rin natin 'to, di ba? So pwede na mag-discussion, di ba? Mag-discuss na. Okay? So mag-discuss na. Okay? So syempre may mga amendments, of course, that's also included in the rules of procedure ng either house, okay? Now, pag nagkaroon na ng amendments or magkaroon na ng final form after the discussion and the debate, di ba? Ang mangyayari ngayon dyan, okay, ika-calendar na ulit yan pag okay na yung mga amendments. So, dadaan na siya sa third reading. Okay, so, ano mangyayari sa third reading? So, babasahin na yung bill in its final form. Okay? Then, pag nabasa na yung bill in its final form, doon na magbobotohan ang mga senador, okay? Or ating congressman or mga members ng House of Representatives. So they're going to vote now whether or not to pass the law or not. Okay? So pag kinatay, di ba? As in, kung ayaw nilang ipasa yung law, wala tayong magagawa. But of course, let's assume that of course, what will happen is that Congress will either house will now approve, okay, by the majority of members constituting a quorum. Kaya importante yung quorum natin kasi in all matters, 'di ba? So balik tayo ng konti sa quorum. In all matters with respect with respect to the function of Congress, 'di ba? Siyempre, lahat 'yan most of them is based on whether or not there is a majority of senators in the session. So, sample, 13 lang yung mga senador mo, magpapasa kayo ng batas on third reading, pwede naman yun. Kasi syempre may quorum ka. So, you really have to have the quorum para magkaroon ka ng valid legislation. Okay? So let's say, yan na. So, after ng third reading, nagbasa na, nagbotohan na yung majority, approve na yung batas. So, pag na-approve na yung batas, okay, what will happen is, itatransmit na muna dun sa other house. Okay? So, for example, nanggaling sa House of Representatives, you're going to transmit it to the Senate. And vice versa. If the Senate has a bill, you're now going to transmit it to the House of Representatives. Para gumawa ngayon ng equivalent or the same version of a bill then we're going to rinse and repeat back to the first, second, and third reading. Okay? So, pag meron ng House version ng bill at saka Senate version ng bill, pwede na tayong pumunta sa presidential action, 'di ba? Or yung what will the president do to the bill, okay? Pero before Congress will now finalize or formalize the law, okay, to be submitted to the president. May limitations 'yan. Number 1, Section 26, Paragraph 1 of Article 6. So, of course, every bill passed by the Congress, diba, shall embrace only one subject, which shall be expressed in the title thereof. So, we have the one subject, one title rule. Okay? So, bakit meron tayong one subject, one title rule? Okay, so I think you may have heard the concept of a rider. Okay? Kasi syempre, pag nagpapasa ka ng batas, minsan, uso din yung ninja moves, di ba? So, malay mo, okay na yung batas, bigla siningitan or yung title itself is very ambiguous, meron palang mga bagay na hindi dapat kasama, pero kasama pala dun sa batas na yon. Silent nga lang. Tapos, surprise, pag naging na siyang batas, ay kasama pala siya, di ba? So, yun yung iniiwasan ng Constitution. That, to prevent the entry of riders, okay? Hindi rider na isipin niyo baka motorcycle rider. Rider na rider yon when it comes to rider yon when it comes to kaya na sinasabi nilang rider kasi sinisingit nila, 'di ba? They're inserting it without the knowledge. So syempre pag siningit mo, hindi dumaan yun sa first, second, third reading, 'di ba? So that's the purpose of your rider of preventing the riders when it comes to the one subject, one title rule, 'di ba? So recently nagkaroon ng ruling ang Supreme Court diyan, 'di ba, sa kaso ng Saint Wealth Limited, 'di ba? So the Saint Wealth Limited, this involves yung Bayanihan 2 package natin. Okay? Although alam ko kinuro ng Kongreso to, pero nagkaroon ng ruling yung Supreme Court. So, nangyari kasi dito yung title ng yung parang yung title ng batas, okay? Kasi Bayanihan 2 yung title ng batas, pero may siningit kasi na phrase na providing funds therefore sa Section 11 F and G ng batas, okay? So, lumalabas parang surprise, okay, because of the pandemic, biglang siguro, of course, I would assume that the Congress is a bit zealous in passing the Bayanihan measures at this time kasi pandemic, di ba? Of course, if you can recall, ang Bayanihan 2 is with the purpose of trying to start the recovery, di ba? Pero, syempre, despite of good intentions cannot save an unconstitutional provision of law, okay? Note that. Kahit na gaano ka good, even in other aspects of law, okay, ito, parang ganito lang yan di ba? You cannot, parang sa contracts to di ba? You learn later on sa contracts, di ba? Pag may kontrata kayo, it's the law between the parties. Now, of course, the assumption is when you entered into a contract, di ba? It's based on equity. Now, kung wala kang equity provision, kung example, you have a contract but you included but you included provisions of equity which is not really applicable, you cannot do that, 'di ba? Ganun din yung parang idea nito, 'di ba? Hindi ba pwede, you may have the good intention of inserting something in the law, but you still have to comply with the constitutional requirements, 'di ba? So, sabi dito sa kaso ng Saint Wealth versus BIR, okay? Of course, while the title of the law contains the phrase providing funds therefore, it must be emphasized that all other provisions relating to sources of funding under Section 10 of the Bayanihan 2, except for Section 11, are already existing taxes. So, the Bayanihan 2 law merely realigns these existing sources of funding and finance it for COVID-19 relief measures. Before the passage of the Bayanihan 2 law, there was no law in effect which imposes franchise taxes over offshore-based POGO licensees. Okay, so similarly, there is also no statutory basis to impose income tax and VAT upon offshore-based POGO licensees before the enactment of the Bayanihan 2 law. So this means that the Bayanihan 2 law appears to introduce new tax impositions. Well, since yung inisingit nila na tax imposition sa Section 11 FNG of the Bayanihan 2 law are not germane to the purpose of the law, it therefore violates the one subject, one title rule of the Constitution. The imposition of your new taxes, camouflage as part of a long list of existing taxes, cannot be contemplated as an integral part of a temporary COVID-19 relief measure. Invariably, Section 11 FNG of the Bayanihan Law 2 are unconstitutional so far as it imposes new taxes on POGO licensees. Okay? So, di ba, kung naalala nyo, di ba, kanina, we discussed, di ba, ang origination talaga niyan dapat is sa Congress, di ba? So since this COVID Bayanihan 2 is a temporary relief measure, di ba? Parang ang dating nagsingit ka ng taxes, di ba, dun sa batas. Although of course, I think if I can recall during the time, di ba? Syempre, the Congress has this intention of trying to get taxes, di ba, from offshore POGO. Kasi syempre, it would be, of course, it might help dun sa COVID-19 relief. Supposedly, okay? But yun nga, even if the best intentions of Congress, you cannot just allow something which is outside the ambit of constitutional limitations, di ba? Here, nag-violate siya ng one subject, one title rule. Okay? Alright, so yun yung ano doon. So yung one subject, that's the purpose of your one subject, one title rule. Okay? So right. So yun yung isa limitation. Another limitation that we can discern here, 'di ba? Is pagtapos na yung batas. Okay? Tapos na yung batas. Pero bago ipasa sa presidente, napag-isipan ng both houses of Congress na pwede tayo mag-edit ng konti. So, ang gagawin ng Congress at sa House of Representatives, magko-convene as a bicameral conference. So, magkakaroon sila ng bicameral conference committee. So, anong nangyayari usually sa tawag dito sa bicameral conference committee? Okay? Siyempre, ito yung mga minsan naririnig natin, 'di ba? If you're going to listen it in a colloquial manner, ito yung sinasabi na, of course, yung pinasang batas daw, ito, tapos bigla nung nagkaroon ng bicameral conference committee, biglang naiba yung structure ng batas. May mga ganun tayo narinig minsan na story na, well, ba't ganun nangyari? Ba't naiba yung structure ng batas? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, ngayon, let's emphasize, okay? So, when we speak of the role of the bicameral conference committee, the bicameral conference committee is been, it is been enacted or allowed, okay? Siyempre allowed siya, okay? Allowed siya in a sense that, of course, that's part of the procedures in Congress. So, I think it's within the ambit of the power of Congress to promulgate their own rules. Number two, the purpose of your bicameral conference committee is to reconcile differences between the two versions of the bill before there would be a law that's going to be submitted finally before the president. Okay? Now, ang question is this. Isn't it that if you're going to conduct a bicameral conference committee, you are at least making a quote-unquote rider, di ba? Or you are violating what has already been decided during the first, second, and third reading, di ba? Kasi theoretically, you can really insert something there, di ba? Sa bicameral conference committee mo. The bicameral conference committee may substantially alter something in the law, okay? As long as it's within that sound prerogative, di ba? But of course, since it's within the realm of both houses of Congress, they still have control over those provisions, di ba? So, the question now is the bicameral conference committee legal by itself? Is it not unconstitutional? So, ang sabi sa case ng Tolentino versus Secretary of Finance and later on affirmed sa Abacada Guro Party List versus Secretary of Finance, okay, the 2005 case. So, apparently parehong bat yung issue dito. Si Tolentino is the expanded VAT law. Yung 2005 na Abacada case is the Arbat law. Okay? So, ang sabi ng Supreme Court both in Tolentino and in Abacada Guro is this. Yung bicameral conference committee is allowed because number one, even in the Congress of the United States, they allow leeway for Congress to conduct a bicameral conference committee to flatten out or clear out certain other matters that should be reconciled or should be corrected in your before it's going to be finally submitted to the president for signature. Okay, so that's allowed. So it's within the realm, sabi sa Tolentino at sa Abacada Guro, it is within the realm of the houses of Congress to conduct that without any issue or any problem. Okay, so okay ang bicameral conference committee. Kaya lagi may bicameral conference committee. It's already allowed. Okay, it's allowed under present jurisprudence. Okay, and it's now within the procedural framework of both houses of Congress. Okay, now let's assume that all of this has been said and done. Okay, so ano nang gagawin ng Congress? So magsasubmit sila ng enroll bill. Okay, so ano ibig sabihin ng enroll bill? So your enroll bill is the official copy of your bill where may pirma si Senate President, may pirma si House of Representatives, then merong formalities, lalagyan ng seal, then that copy is going to be sent to Malacanang, okay, for the signature of the President. Okay, so syempre may mga discussions on roll bill theory. Okay, so most of the jurisprudence on enroll bill theory, ina-uphold yung enroll bill theory because similar dun sa discussion natin sa journal, okay? Similar dun sa discussion natin sa journal, your enroll bill theory is proof that the bill that's going to be submitted for signature is the exact bill. Okay? May certification kasi yun dun sa bill. Kung titingnan nyo yung mga batas nyo, di ba? Yung baga complete laws hindi yung miss kasi may mga ibang mga laws truncated na wala na yung ano. Pero if you see an actual law, 'di ba? Yung talagang print out ng batas, 'di ba? So, meron doon nakalagay na syempre pirmado ni Senate President at ni Speaker. Tapos meron doon, this certifies that this bill is the consolidation of House bill and Senate bill, blah 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 blah. Tapos may pirma yung dalawang Secretary General ng Senate at saka na House. Okay? So, ibibigay nila yung lahat na may signatures, then they're going to seal it for purposes of being official. Siyempre, kung ano man yung nakalagay doon, na galing sa Houses of Congress, it's presumed to be regular. Okay? Siyempre, there is this, I think, an outlier, it's not necessarily outlier case, but of course, a peculiar case, di ba? So, yung isang kaso that ruled na nag-violate sa enrolled bill theory is yung Astorga versus Villegas. Okay? So, doon sa Astorga versus Villegas, nagkaroon ng issue nung nagkaroon na ng transmittal, nagkaroon ng parang mga incidents. Okay? So, parang winay ng Supreme Court na at that time that those incidents overturned the presumption of the regularity of the enrolled bill. So, they held na yung batas is not passed in accordance with the constitution at the time 1935 constitution, di ba? Pero halos lahat ng mga cases ngayon, I think the latest would be in Cosetup versus Secretary of Education. Sabi ng Supreme Court hindi enough yung allegation nila na nag-violate sa enrolled bill theory because the assumption will always remain that if a bill is already an enrolled bill, it has presumption of regularity. Okay? Now, Siyempre, nasa presidente na yung batas. Okay? So, ano ang pwedeng gawin ng presidente? Okay? So, tatlo pwedeng gawin ng presidente dyan. So, yung una, pirmahan niya. So, walang problem. Pinirmahan niya. Yay! Meron ka ng batas. You just have to comply with the publication requirement. Diba? So, diba, usually, diba, Article 2 Civil Code na nagpa-prevail, diba? Should be printed in the official gazette or newspaper of general circulation within 15 days unless a period is specified. So, pwede naman kasing immediately, pero note na pag sinabi mong immediately, di ba, if you can recall Tanyada versus Tobera, pag immediately, syempre, you need the publication because publication is indispensable. So, ang reckoning point na at the time of the publication. Or for example, may kailangan ng longer period, pwede rin naman. Okay? So gusto nila 30 days effectivity. That's no problem because sabi naman sa civil code as otherwise provided naman, that's allowed. Okay? Now, the next question is ang pwedeng next naman is syempre una pinirmahan. So, yung pangalawa tinanggihan niya sa process of objecting the bill. Okay? So, paano pag nag-object si President? Pag nag-object si President, you call that the power of the President to veto. Okay? To veto the bill. Okay? So, pag binito, ayaw niya nung bill na maging batas. So, ano role ng veto power ng Presidente? Siyempre, ang role ng veto power ng Presidente in this case is considered as a check and balance kasi well Congress may pass bills but the president may object. Okay, now syempre pag nagkaroon ng objection yan, di ba, pwede pa bang mabuhay yung bill na yan? Pwede pa naman. Yun nga lang, babalik sa Kongreso, then Congress will have to decide voting separately. Okay, yung houses. And you needed 2/3 of the vote, okay, to override the veto. So, pwedeng i-override ng Kongreso yung veto, okay? But there's a need to vote a vote of 2/3 of Congress, okay? So, syempre, binigyan ng malaking percentage, 2/3, so that, mali mo, talagang, close to the razor's edge yung botohan dun sa pag-approve. Syempre, if the President would refuse, di ba, or veto the measure, syempre, of course, there should be a substantial majority that is going to overturn that veto. Otherwise, hindi mo ma-overturn yung veto, di ba? So, the law would not be enacted. Okay? Ngayon, syempre, may pangatlong pwede pang gawin ang presidente. Dedma. Pwede niyan dedmahin yung bill. Now, ang tanong ngayon is, ano mangyayari pag dinedma ng presidente ang bill? Okay? No action niya. Well, just to give you lang a comparison. Sa Amerika, pag ang presidente ng US hindi inaksyonan ang isang bill natapos ang sesyon ng Congress, okay? Ang tawag doon pocket veto. Pag nag-pocket veto kasi sa US, ang US president, patay ang bill mo. Tapos, hindi mo na siya maipapasa. I mean, ibig sabihin, yung bill mo will already be considered a dead bill. Hindi inaksyon na ng presidente. So, walang mangyayari. Sa Pilipinas, iba because our concept is more on presumption of regularities. Okay? So, dito sa Pilipinas, let's say inignore ng presidente, dinedma niya lang yung bill. Sabi sa Constitution, pag dinedma mo ang bill, automatic yan magiging batas within 30 days after it was first submitted sa Malacanang. Okay? So, after 30 days, automatic yan. Maglalapse na siya into law. Okay? So, maraming mga naglapse into law. If I can recall correctly, I may not be accurate. Alam ko, alam ko marami sa inyo dito, mga teachers, di ba? So far as this discussion is concerned, I know that many of you are teachers, and I'm aware that you don't really like the CPD, okay? Kasi dagdag units yan. funny nga, mas marami pa nga yung units ng ano mas marami pa yung required units ng LPT kaysa sa MCLE, kasi sa MCLE 36 units, pero sa LPT I think 40 units kada 3 years ang requirement eh. Uh, Meron pa sila learning action cells dyan and all of that, di ba? So, it's isipin ko medyo iniquitous yan kasi ayan, although alam ko naman suspended pa rin naman yata yung because I think I can still renew my PRC license eh. Pero yun, so alam ko naman suspended, pero yung CPD law, I think if I can recall correctly, isa yan sa mga laws na naglapse into law. Hindi pinirmahan ni Duterte yan eh. Nagdinala siyang batas. Okay? I think usually nangyayari to pag end cycle na ng sinubmit sa Malacanang ng June, tapos magpapalit ka ng administrasyon. Syempre natetenga eh. So syempre kaya nilagay nila yung 30-day automatic clause. Para pag ganun yung sitwasyon, di automatic na siya. The president not have to have an headache or have an opportunity to even kill the bill kung may pocket veto, dahil wala naman tayong pocket veto provision dito eh. 'Di ba? Siyempre pinakasikat na isa sa mga memorable na tungkol diyan because remember yung 30-day provision yung 30-day automatic passage of the law, it's already existing since the 1935 Constitution. So, nasa 1935 Constitution yan. Diba, if you can recall, ang pinakasikat na isang kaso dyan, hindi ko alam kung na-discuss nyo to sa legal ethics ninyo, di ba? Is yung kaso ng Inre Cunanan. Yung 1954 case na Inre Cunanan. Diba, naalala nyo sa Inre Cunanan? Yung Congress, kasi this is after the war eh. Diba? So, ang ginawa nila, parang lang yan eh, parang Teacher's Day lang yan nung huli, di ba? Kita nyo, daming politikong bumabati sa inyo ng Teacher's Day kasi alam nila kasi BEI kayo eh. so di ba, yun yung dun eh. Alam naman natin yun ang consideration dun eh. Ito mo naalala biglang may Teacher's Day. So, nung time na yun, so siguro naisip ng congressman, pasikat kaya tayo sa mga lawyers. Okay, so gawa tayo ng batas na automatic pasado na yung mga lawyers doon sa mga bumagsak from 1946 to 1953. So, syempre, para magkaroon ng syempre, the Supreme Court at the time is having misgivings, di ba? So, what happened was, ay pasa yung batas kasi syempre, parang good the measure eh. Syempre, maraming boboto sa kanilang abogado na gustong pumasa, di ba? Syempre, sabihin nila, boboto ko si Congressman, pinasa niya yung Bar Flankers Act, di ba? So anong nangyari? Syempre, the president at the time was Elpidio Quirino. Okay? So, si Elpidio Quirino, kinausap na syempre ng Congress. So, sige, pirma mo yung batas. Kailangan eh, para manalo tayo, etc. Or, para sumikat, di ba? Well, naman natin natalo si Quirino. Pero, okay. So, syempre naman, yung Supreme Court naman, pumunta kay Quirino din. Sabi ni Quirino, kila Quirino, huwag niyo ipasa yan. Baka unconstitutional yan eh. At saka isa pa, baka, wala naman powers of Congress na mag-determine to pass someone from taking the bar exam. So, ang ginawa ni Quirino, nag-isip ng isang solusyon na alam niyang hindi siya talo sa Kongreso, pero hindi siya talo sa Supreme Court. So, ang ginawa niya, hindi niya pinirmahan yung batas. So, naglapse yung batas ng 30 days, naging batas yung Bar Flankers Act. So, di ba, if you can recall yung storya nun, nung nagkaroon na ng ginang batas yung Bar Flankers Law, di lahat ng mga bumagsak ng bar exam from 1946 to 1953, nagpuntahan lahat sa Supreme Court. Okay? Siyempre, nag-file sila ng petisyon na, well, may batas ngayon. Automatic, pasado kami sa bar, blah, 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 blah. Diba? Yun yung desisyon ng Supreme Court where it emphasized what we have now sa Article 8, Section 5, Paragraph 5. Diba? Yung power ng courts to determine the practice of law, particularly the admission to the bar. Okay, so it's Inre Cunanan who first emphasized that power na Supreme Court lang ang may power to have admission to the bar. Okay, so naging declare unconstitutional, although may parts na hindi dineclare unconstitutional, yung main purpose nung Bar Flankers Act is to pass yung mas marami sana na nag-take na exam, syempre, dineclare na unconstitutional yon because of the Supreme Court, because of the power of the Supreme Court asserted their power to those to their power to admit people in the bar as well as pleading and practice. Okay? Pero I illustrated that just to show you na si Quirino, hindi niya pinirmahan yung batas, di ba? Kasi ayaw niyang magkaroon ng argument. Siyempre, pag pinirmahan niya, magagalit yung maiinis yung Kongreso sa kanya. Oh, ayaw mo, blah blah blah, di ba? Ganon din naman, pag pinirmahan niya sa Kongreso, pumirma siya, kumampi siya sa Kongreso, malamang siya sa Supreme Court, bad shot siya, di ba? And the same thing, kung sinabi nag-outright refusal siya, di ba? Kasi talagang nagsalita siya na Siyempre, kakampi niya Supreme Court, pero siyempre, for political purposes, hindi kaaway mo na yung mga congressman, di ba? So, ginawa niya, hindi lang siya pumirma, di ba? Play safe. Oh. Nag-away nga lang yung nagkaroon ng sabungan yung Supreme Court at saka yung batas, di ba? So, yun yung nangyari sa Indre Cunanan. Okay, so, that's your lawmaking power of the Supreme Court. Okay?